Welcome to my new series, Eerie Episodes. So the aim of this series is to delve into the mystical, the weird, the eerie things that people don't tend to cover on YouTube. And I am a big fan of horror, and the videos on YouTube, they don't really hit it for me. They don't touch on the things that really get my skin crawling. So, Eerie Episodes, Volume 1, we're diving into psychedelics. We're gonna go into salvia, symmetry, datura, and we're gonna explore that whole realm and read some trip reports and go into the history. It's gonna be fun. And the psychedelic that I have the most experience with is psilocybin mushrooms. So I'm going to tell the story of a trip that I had actually yesterday while it's still fresh in my mind, and it's also going to help me process everything that went on. So some weird stuff happened. So join me and we're going to go through this. So I'm sure some of you here are psychonauts, but for those who are not familiar with psychedelics at all, it's very important that you treat substances with respect. They can be done just recreationally, in lower doses at maybe a festival, or something like that. But if you're embarking on anything more than, let's just take psilocybin for example, anything more than 2.5, you really need to really prepare, and make sure you're in a safe environment. You might want to have a trip sitter, someone who is sober who can watch over you, or what I would recommend, and from my experience, is you build up over time. So you start with the smaller doses, maybe outside, have a lot of sensory distractions, and then when you want to start taking it a bit more personal, you do this inside. You can do it with music, instrumentals, or just relaxing, however that might be for you. I haven't tried Silent Darkness, and I think that will be my next trip, but I don't trip very often. This is probably the first time in a year, or longer than a year, because I wait for when I feel called to it. And as of lately, I feel really tapped in, and really connected, and it just felt like time. I just feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing now, and I really feel like a large part of my path is to share it with other people. So this trip report is very personal, and I feel very vulnerable making it, so I really hope that you can get something from this experience. And in no way am I encouraging you to do psychedelics, because it isn't for everybody. And the thing I want to stress the very most is that you respect it, or it will whip your ass basically. So I should rewind and go back to the start of the trip, because it's really important. And this guided me more than the intentions that I set. So I feel very deeply connected with Narco Bear and his music, specifically Narco and Medicine for the People. I know you guys know this, I'm a hardcore fan, I always talk about him and his music, but I started off the whole trip I started off listening to a song called Directions, which is inspired by Native American culture and ceremony. When before they would start a ceremony, they call on their ancestors from all the directions to come and be present with them and guide them through the experience. So the song I put on is called Directions, and this is really important for the story later. So it calls from all the directions, to the east, to the south, to the north, to the west. And then it says, "Grandfather, I'm calling on you, need your guidance now. Grandmother, I'm calling on you, need your guidance now." So remember this for later. I always start a trip with some meditation, and then I will set my intentions for the trip if I have any questions that I want to know. So my main intentions for this trip, which I wrote the night before, I really feel like it's good to prepare the night before. I always pack a little backpack of anything that I could possibly want to use, so it's all in one place. And I might not even use one thing from that bag, but just knowing that it's all there and I have that choice is really reassuring. So I would pack paints, different coloured pens, all sorts of arts and crafts and things like that. But you never know how you're going to feel, if you're going to want to do that at all. And it was one of the things I struggled with this trip, because I really felt like I didn't know what to do, and I was trying to force it to go certain ways, and that just didn't happen, and I did freak out a bit. So I will always take the opportunity to hold them, maybe listening to some music, and I thank them for the experience that and thank them for what they're going to show me, and say I understand it may not be what I want to see, but I know that it's needed, and I appreciate them and I thank them and I ask for their guidance, and then I would set my intentions for the trip and if I had any questions. So I didn't have any direct intentions for this trip apart from strengthening my connection with spirit, which I really feel like has been happening for the last month or so. So I just wanted to really deepen that connection. So the night before, I will make a list of everything that needs to go in my bag and then tick it off, so I know that I'm fully prepared for all the circumstances. And it's always fun to write down the time that you take the substance. So 2:19, I took what was meant to be my heroic dose of mushrooms. Now, what I didn't take into account was that they were old and basically they had lost their potency. So I had psyched myself up for this out of this world experience, 5 grams, the heroic dose that everyone talks about, and I had such high expectations for it. And an hour later, and I didn't even have traces. The walls weren't breathing, not even just a little sense that things are getting weird. I had no nausea at all, which is really weird because it usually hits me pretty bad. So I just knew they're not really going to have any effect. So luckily, I had some philosopher's stones or truffles, also known as truffles, and it's really unpleasant to eat truffles, but I had put so much energy into making this trip work, I was not going to give up that easily. So I ate 3 grams of really dry old truffles, and it was really horrible and acidic, and just I remember looking at the window and the light was shining through and I felt like I was being punished, and I was like, why do I have to eat this? Why do I have to do this? And almost instantly, I would say after 5 minutes, I started to feel more. So I ate another, I want to say another 3 grams, a bit less. So if you exclude the first failed dose, or 5.5 actually, I had about another 5 or 6 grams of truffles. And then I could see geometric patterns. It was really uncomfortable actually, because I had such high expectations for the heroic dose. Although I knew what to expect, actually being in the situation, it felt, I don't know, it wasn't going as I thought, and that was my main issue with the beginning of this trip. I was really trying to control everything, and I was lying down and I was like, should I pull the cover over my head? It's too bright in here. Like, I had music on and I was like, no, I shouldn't have any music because I'm not getting any internal thoughts. And I was like, oh, I don't want to waste it. Like, should I just get up and draw and use the visuals as inspiration? I really felt uncomfortable and just unable to settle and unable to decide what I should do. So I just laid in bed and I was trying so hard to just surrender to this come up and this peak, but I just couldn't, and I would get up and all my limbs felt like all clumsy. So I was like, should I dance? Do I need to dance? Like, another thing that happened was my arm was really painful, and I don't know if it was connected to the substance or if it was just a pain that just came whilst I was on shrooms. So I had this horrible thought loop of like, oh, my arm hurts so, my arm is so heavy, like I don't know what to do with my arm, like, oh my god, it's so painful, like I can't focus on the experience because my arm is just like, I want to chop my arm off. Obviously I don't want to chop it off, so I was I really didn't want to, but in the end I took some painkillers and it did help, and it just got rid of that distraction. And once I got rid of that body, like that uncomfortable body feeling, I enjoyed the trip a lot more. But there was a whole segment where I just kept thinking about human bodies and how inconvenient it is to have a body, and it's like having a baby, you have to take care of it all the time. Like, now it's just hurting and it's distracting me from this beautiful experience. Like, oh, it's just such a pain to have a body. And this kept going for a really long time, of this all of this about having a body. I can't remember if I wrote it down. I wrote it down. The body is so clumsy and heavy. So that's just, it really, I just got stuck in that loop for a really long time, and I just thought, if I write that down, maybe I can just move on and we can stop with this body stuff. And I just remember feeling so fed up that my body was just like prohibiting me from having this wonderful experience. So I just tried to lie back and fully like let it go. And eventually we got past this. So this is when my trip really began, and I think I had a really rocky beginning because of the 5.5 grams really not doing anything at all. So it really added to the discomfort and that feeling of like, is something gonna happen, is it not? I was really looking forward to this, now I'm really disappointed. That all built up, and I was able to let that go. And what happened is, my downstairs neighbours are Muslim, and it was Eid, Saturday night or Sunday. Sunday. It was Sunday. So I could hear them, I don't know if it was prayer or some sort of music, they were just celebrating Eid, and it came up into my room, and I just completely forgot my race. And it sounds crazy, but I'll insert the notes that I made in my phone, and I opened up Google Maps and I was zooming around on the maps. I'm mixed race, so I know obviously that part of me is white because I was raised by my white family. But the black side and the Middle Eastern side, I have no contact with anyone on that side. So I am quarter Syrian and quarter Chinese, Jamaican and English. And for the life of me, I could not remember the name Syria. Like, I could not, even in my phone notes, I knew it started with S, and I wrote Serbia, like question marks, and I was so confused. And I was trying to reach out to my friend, but I couldn't really text, and I was like, I'm really trying to remember like what country I come from, and she was like, Jamaican, England. I was like, no, there's more countries, but I don't know what it's called. There wasn't the foggiest little inkling of where I came from. Like, I couldn't even just search a little bit into Google and find it out. And then I remembered that one of my old colleagues is also from this place that I really can't remember, because we connected about it because it's kind of unusual to be from here. Like, well, in my social situation and like whatever, it's just not as common. So I remember him, and I searched on his Instagram, and he has loads of political posts, and he travels often, and I was so confused. I was just looking, and I'm seeing him in Egypt, and I'm like, where are we from? Like, I can't message him because he doesn't know that I'm like out of my mind on mushrooms right now. So I was like, where are we from? Like, I'm looking at him, I'm like, are we like the same, but where are we from? And I never worked out until, when was it, like way in the evening, like 10 o'clock at night, I remembered what happened, and I looked into where I'm actually from, Syria. So that was a whole journey. But although it's funny to look back on it now, it was really scary to completely forget where I came from. And it led me on a whole journey of race and what it means to be mixed race. And throughout my life, I've always been told that I'm too white and I am not black, and I'm an Oreo, I'm all of this, all of the things that people say to mixed girls, and maybe some of you out there feel this. But I've never been a part of that side of my family, and I really have no connection, or like, nor do I know what it means to really be from Jamaica, from Syria, from China. Like, I have more experience with China because I've actually been to China, and I'm really interested in that culture and language, so I do feel a bit more connected with that. But the other two sides, this trip has really highlighted that I do not know who I am and what it means to be from where I'm from. And it might seem obvious to some of you, but it was really like kind of embarrassing. Like, I wrote in my phone notes, I feel really silly, like I feel really ashamed. How can I not even remember where I come from, and what does that mean, and what does it actually mean to be from these cultures? And it really led off into this whole thing of, do I need to travel? Do I need to look around, like go to these places and really experience the culture firsthand? Would that help me connect with it? And this must have gone on for like an hour. And I just was thinking about what it actually means and what a privilege it is to be from so many cultures, and why I don't embrace all of them. And I really see this as the beginning of looking into that side of me. So a long time passes, and I don't really remember anything in particular after this race thing. I do remember regretting that I didn't do this in darkness, because it was just a lot. The visuals were a lot, and I didn't feel like I really wanted to do anything, so I couldn't really appreciate them, and they were just more of a distraction, and really I wanted to go more internally, but I found myself so distracted and so caught in the moment. Instead of just being able to surrender to the experience, I was really restless, and I really think that it was a mistake to do it during the day. When I finally got over the shame of not knowing where I came from, I started to think, well, I need to ask somebody, and I really need to speak to someone on that side of my like on my paternal side of the family. And I just started to think, like, why do I actually not talk to those people? Like, what happened? What is the reason that I actually am not in contact with my grandmother? Like, what happened? Was there a big family scandal? And this is when I got up and I'm pacing around and I'm like, but what did she do? What did she do? Like, why do we not speak to her? Like, what happened? And then I remember always being told throughout my life that she was crazy. She was weird. This is what I've always been told. She's weird, and she is nuts. She's weird. She's strange. And I was thinking, like, what does that mean? Like, I'm weird. I'm strange. Like, like, is that what? That can't be the only reason. So, as carefully as I can, I text my auntie, my white auntie, and I'm like, Emma, entertain me. Like, what did Nan Nolia do? What did she ever do? And my auntie was like, I don't really know, to be honest. I was like, what? What do you mean? I was just like, no, like, I don't remember any experience, like, because my auntie's been involved my whole life, and she used to take me to the park and pretend that I was her baby. Like, she was really deeply involved. She was like, I don't remember, there wasn't a big argument or any scandal. I just think she's just a weirdo. And I was like, well, I'm a weirdo. What does that mean? She's just strange. That's what she just kept saying. She's just strange. What? Like, I'm just strange. So I leave her because I'm like, I don't want to expose myself too much right now. And I'm walking around the house and I'm like, what did she do? Like, what did she possibly do that we don't talk to her anymore? Like, what? So I'm like pacing around. I'm like, what did she do? Like, what happened? What did she do? And then I find this. I'm like, oh yeah, my mum left out these photo albums for me. Like, I want to see her, because I deep in that moment I realized, is she just like me? And people don't really understand her. And it just all made sense. And in that moment, I felt so connected to my grandmother, who I don't know. And I just realized, like, we are the same. And I wanted to see her. And I look through these photo albums, and I find these pictures of her and me together, and she's all decked out in black and gold rings, and I'm like, who are you? Like, are we the same? And I had this beautiful moment of going through all of these baby pictures, and it felt so full circle. And I cried a lot. Not ugly crying, just sitting there looking, and like tears are rolling down my face. But in that moment, it was like, I really appreciated my life and the point that I'm at in it now. And I was really proud of myself. A really important part of this story that is a bit difficult to talk about is, like, I have mummy and daddy issues, and I genuinely believe that honestly I know that my mother is a narcissist, undiagnosed narcissist, and we fell out, and she told me to get the fuck out, and since that day I packed all my stuff and I moved in with my white nan. And I treasure my white nan so dearly. And my white granddad. And I just started to feel so guilty. Like, I saw, basically, in that moment, I saw through my mom's stories. And now that I'm an adult and I've distanced myself from my mom, I can really see things with a new perspective. And she doesn't like my style and like my weirdness, and we always fell out about that, and we just have totally different personalities and it contrasts so much. But now that I'm older, I see that she just has this narrow-minded perspective on life and how things should be and how you should conform and the things you should do, and I can see how she sees things now, if that makes sense. And what I saw is she sees my grandmother on my dad's side like she sees me. And this was world shattering to me. My earth was shaking, and I really thought like, oh my god, the reason why I haven't had that connection with my grandmother is because of my mom's ego and my mom's narcissism. And that was really, in that moment, I knew that I had to reconnect with my grandmother. And I really wanted to send her a friend request. I found her on Facebook. And I was like, no, because I need to send her a proper message about everything. And I have decided that I am going to contact her. And I'm just going to explain that I've realised that I've grown up with all of these. I don't know how to put it without upsetting her, but I'm going to explain that now I'm distant from my mum and I'm more mature and I can see things clearer, and I see that a lot of what I was told wasn't true, and I want to reach out to you. So I'm going to do that one day soon. But it's really important to understand that the reason why I didn't speak with her, it was never me, it was the situation that I was in when I used to live with my mom. So yeah, we're gonna have a grandmommy soon. Oh my gosh.
To the trauma, to the war, that's how I learned to be
Come here.
alone. Coming from a broken home. That's how I learned to be alone.
What's happening?
From a broken home. Give me all you got.
What?
Give me all you got. We'll make stories, we'll make love. And that's enough. Yeah, that's your love. Take your power back. To defend the sacred is to protect my heart and grieve for those I've hurt. To find healing in parts and mourn the lifetimes of trauma of ancestors I never knew. What's mine and what's inherited, the merging of the two. To defend the sacred and protect my heart. I feel late in that blooming, but I'm repairing my part. A young tree bearing fruit, tastes start. Don't hide behind your heart. You gotta put down. I'll admit that I am part of the problem. Part of the problem. What about all that shit I did for love? Maybe it wasn't love, no, no. Who's in charge here? Is it really me? A face you rarely see. I was looking for connection, but it's just a mixed message. Come a little closer, maybe you can make some sense of.
So now let's get into the freaky side of the trip, now that the deep race issues and family is kind of done. I went onto the balcony and I was just watching downstairs, and everybody was walking very weirdly, and at this point I felt like I was on the calm down, but I was still experiencing some weird things, and everyone felt really angular. I don't know how to explain it, like 90-degree angles. So when people were walking, it was all like janky and like that's the only word I actually wrote down, the janky. Everyone seemed really really angular and like cubist almost. And I picked up my cat, and it was really horrible to hold him. It was like I was holding a book or something, and he just felt so horrible. It was really horrible, and I put him down and I was like, ugh. And the people that was watching outside were all funny, and I was like, what is going on? And I sat down right here to speak with my friend, and I put my leg like this, like really bent, and I was recording a voice note to her, and suddenly my hand went into the sign of Vishnu, and I genuinely don't know how to do it. Like it's not something I've ever tried before, and I know it sounds like bullshit, but it just locked into the position. And I was talking to her, and I was like, why are my limbs, like, I had to stop, right? I stopped recording, and I took a picture of my hand. I know this seems absolutely crackers, but I had to just take a picture because my arm felt so stiff, and everything felt so, like, when I was moving, it just would lock into a position. So then I just started to play with my hands, and they were so relaxed in that moment, all the muscles and all the tendons, that I was able to flow into some positions which, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, they really look like when you see statues of Hindu deities or pictures or any depictions of Hindu deities, when you see them with multiple arms and their hands are in certain positions, I was able to just do, and it would just go into one of the positions and then stop there, and then I would just keep flowing with it, like kind of giving myself a light show without lights, and then it would just lock into a position, and I would take a picture because I'd be like, I need to look at this later because I've seen this before. And I know that might sound crazy to you, but I'm gonna put in some
Honor the earth, the mother comes first. in the dirt, mama, this is where you came from. 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 Yeah. Systems broken, no fucks given. Only people living on the back to the broken. Dreams of America. Dreams of America. Need a part carrier. Let me split you out, something vision can get clearer. Your mother's crying, boy, can you hear her? You gotta put down the weight. You gotta get out of your way. You gotta put down the weight. You gotta get out of your way. Dear lover, you can find me on the front lines covered in the blood and tears of another brother, sister, mother. Revolution for your broadcast on Facebook, the Twitter, and the noise. I can hear it when the megaphone roars. Wipe the tears from this tear gas choice. You have a choice. Stand in front of your fear, baby, time to find your voice. It's a story, a love story. You can't believe it. Death, birth, your life's worth, it's trending. Story, a love story.
In traditional Indian dance, and also like when you're worshipping Vishnu, you use your right hand, and there are some holy symbols. Well, no, that's not the word, but there are some ways to like honor them. But I was just like, after I realized it had gone into the one for Vishnu, I just started to flow around, and I think my muscles are just so like open right now and relaxed that I can do crazy things, but I would just flow with it, and then eventually it would just go into one that had meaning, and it would really stay there for a moment, and all my muscles would tense like this, and then it would like flow on to the next. So I don't know what that is, but my hand hurts. Video and some pictures from when it was actually happening, and I can't explain it. And today I can't do as much as I was doing because my muscles were just so relaxed. But I'll insert that now and tell me what you think, because it still blows my mind. After that I watched the final of the Midnight Gospel, and I was really hungry and really tired because I had fasted for this experience, and I just felt like it was time to eat. So I warmed up some vegan spaghetti bolognese that I made the day before, and I ate that. I watched the Midnight Gospel, and then I think I put myself to bed at like 10:30 because I was so exhausted. And that was my experience. So I'm gonna put some more footage in here for you guys, especially of the hands, because I've never experienced anything like that. I honestly felt like in that moment something was channeling through me, and I've never done traditional Indian dance, but I have always wanted to, and it just felt, it was just happening naturally in that moment. So I don't know what that means. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is quite a light episode for this series, but hold tight and we are gonna get into some very unsettling stuff. So please stick around if you want to see future episodes, and stay safe and trip carefully.